Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone, and I want to thank Yossi. Is he here or? Upstairs. All right. Hopefully he knows I'm here and I showed up. So, and of course, Shevach V'Idot HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that should have been first and foremost before anything. Past few days, I have a very long commute to work every day. Just letting you know a little about myself. I live up in Sullivan County, but I have several positions. I travel around doing chaplaincy and other things, so I have chaplaincy positions in Rockland County, in the Bronx, and a few other places. And for the past about a week, there have been signs all over the highway. Drive sober, it's the law. Don't drink and drive, it's the law. Chochem, we should know that. Why do you have to, and why now? How's this man goyim that now we have to talk about not drinking and driving? And so, I'm not sure if this is the reason why, but I'm assuming that because today is a big holiday in America, it's when we celebrate the Declaration of Independence, and that for some reason, I never in my life did I ever associate the 4th of July is a drinking holiday. Something you think about. I don't know. I don't want to say anything that sounds bigoted or anything. You think of, I don't know, St. Patrick's Day. Everybody knows that's a drinking holiday, By us, we have Purim, But the 4th of July, if any day we should be sober, it should be the 4th of July. Because we have to think of the tremendous Chasdei Hashem that every human being should think about, even a total atheist should recognize the incredible miracle that we celebrate with the foundation of this country. And so we, as B'nai Torah, especially have to be thankful for the tremendous chesed that Kadosh Baruch Hu did for us on this day 241 years ago, by providing a place, a plata that we can run to. Not only that, we've had plenty of platas we could run to. There's something special about this place, and it's not the makom, it's not the place, it's not just a piece of land, even though I know the commercials, see the USA and your Chevrolet, America's the greatest land of all. It's not just about the beauty, even though it's a very beautiful piece of land that Kadosh Baruch Hu made. You've seen, my wife is from Idaho, and she took me to see Yellowstone Park, Niflas Abari Mamish. But that's not the godless of America. But rather, we know the freedoms that we enjoy here in this country, that is the greatest miracle, perhaps since Maimad Har Sinai. Has there been such an event, and really, Maimad Har Sinai was Garim, this that we have such a Malchus Shel Chesed, that not only that, but illuminates the whole world to recognize the ideas that are really rooted originally in Torah. The Gedolei Yisrael tend to call America Malchus Shel Chesed. That the whole yesod of this country is Chesed. We should think about what it means Chesed, because a lot of people have twisted ideas of Chesed. Like I said, I'm a chaplain. I was Rav out of town for 5 years in Richmond, Virginia, and I was a prison chaplain. And I saw a fellow in the street, he's smoking 2 cigarettes. There, they smoke a lot of cigarettes. They make a lot of cigarettes in Virginia, and they're a lot cheaper. It's the tobacco lands. All right, the Baal Shem Tov said that Kadosh Baruch Hu even made the tobacco. There's certain insights as the Kedusha in the tobacco. Maybe by now that we learned all the health issues, maybe the insights have all been picked up from the tobacco, but they say, the Baal Shem Tov said that maybe even that it's because in his time, it was not only a couple of hundred years before his time that there was this galus of tobacco was for this purpose of being malinsites. But that's neither here nor there. Nowadays we've learned that's not healthy, and I myself, that's not a sacrament that I take, even if the Baal Shem Tov spoke of it. And not often at least, maybe a cigar on Purim once every couple of years or something. But there was one fellow I saw, he was smoking 2 cigarettes. A guy is smoking 2 cigarettes, and I say, Jim, what are you doing? 1 isn't enough, you need to smoke 2? He said, no, you don't understand. I have a friend, Bob, he's in jail. I said, well, maybe I'll visit him, a prison chaplain. I said, in jail. He said, in jail they don't let him smoke. So I'm smoking 2 cigarettes, one for me and one for him. So a few weeks later, I see Jim again, and I see he's only smoking 1 cigarette. And so it's a chesed he's doing, right? It's not really a chesed he's doing for the other guy, but this is in his mind when he thinks it's a chesed. Sometimes people, they think all kinds of narishkeit, and they think, you want to do something to memorialize someone, they're going to let balloons go or put flowers, all kinds of narishkeit that have no point. We Yidden, we understand if you want to do a chesed to remember, to make a maskeres netzach for someone who left this world, who's in the next world, you do a chesed, you dedicate something to tzedakah, to do something to help people. But some other people have all kinds of ideas what it means chesed, to let balloons go that birds are going to choke on, or who knows, all narishkeit that people do. So this was a narishkeit, this is what this guy thought was chesed. So a few weeks later, I run into Jim again, and I see he's only smoking 1 cigarette. I said, oh, did Bob get out of prison? He said, no, I quit smoking. So people have all different ideas what it means chesed. I heard that from my Rav. It's not my original joke, so I have to say a double b'shem Amrei. Even Stam, forget about America. Stam, the idea of Malchus is an important idea. Even a melech who's a melech achzori, even we say a bracha mistama. There's a machlokes in Achronim. Certain malachim, maybe yes, maybe no, whether to say a bracha. But there's the inyan of Malchus and respecting the government. We see already Yirmiyahu Navi instructed us when we went to Golus Bavel that we have to daven for wherever we're sent, the city we live, we build our homes, we get comfortable, and we pray. We have to daven for the shalom of the people around us, of the communities we live in, the city, the state, the country. So Yirmiyahu Navi says it's because your shalom depends on their shalom. That in your hatzlacha depends on their hatzlacha. All right. In different times in Bavel, sometimes it was really bad, sometimes it wasn't bad. Then the Parsim came. The Persians were a little bit nicer to the Eden. They had a different religion, different ideas. But later, we went back to Eretz Yisrael, and then what happened? We know, based on this pasuk in Yirmiyahu Hanavi, the great Tana Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim. Personally, I know whenever I hear something Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim, there's something in my neshama that gets excited. I don't know what it is about Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim, but the fact that Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim said the statement, besides all the lumdis and tremendous things like you see in Gemara and Pesachim, and Gemara and Shabbos, Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim, Talmidei Chachamim are familiar with these Gemaras that are rather difficult, rather things about Tumah and Tahar and all kinds of things like that. But what most people are familiar, the Maimer of Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim that people are most familiar with, we know from Pirkei Avos. Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim having mispalel shloimeh shel malchus. Now, before we get to the next part of that Maimer that he says, let's first think about who was Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim. Why did he have this title, Skana Kahanim, that he was the vice of the priests? It should have been Skan Kohen, he was the vice high priest. Why Skana Kahanim? I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. It's kedai to say it over again.
I don't know.
So Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim, that why was he the vice of the high priests in the plural?
I don't know either.
Was because there was tremendous corruption in the time of Bayis Sheni. Tremendous darkness. Even though we had a Beis HaMikdash, we were there in Eretz Yisrael. We know the Romans came in, took over the land, sent in their own governors. They appointed a king, Hordas Harasha, King Herod, one of the most wicked people in history. Although maybe not as bad. If we look at how the Roman emperors, there were some were good and some were bad, and the bad ones were really bad. But to think of something like this, what was going on, it wasn't just the Malchus that the Romans took over, it was the Kahuna also. Even before the Romans came in, there developed these various heretical groups, the Tzedokim and the Baitusim, and the Tzedokim became very, very popular among the Kohanim. Among the Hamon Am, there weren't so many tzedakим. The Sadducees, the people who were kofer and Torah Baal Peh, they call in English the Sadducees, they only believed, they said they're solo scriptura, they only follow what's written in the Bible and that's it, they don't have any other traditions, they want to reject all the traditions. The thing is, they wound up making their own traditions. The Rambam points this out. Sometimes they were machmir in things, and that there was no need to be machmir on, like with the paraduma, that they said they had to be from Mor Shemesh, and there's all kinds of different things with the Kohanim. And there were so many Kohanim, they had their own Bezdin Shel Kohanim, the Mishnah says, mentions in the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah. And when you had these, the Tzedokim, some pronounced Tzedukim, were kofer on many inyanim that we believed in, but it wasn't really just, a lot of people would think that these people, they were really serious. They really wanted to know, what is the Torah saying? Really live by the Torah, but it wasn't true. First of all, the way that they conducted themselves was so corrupt. Thank you. They did things, they were much quicker to give Misas Bezdin than our Chazal were. We know in Mishnah and Malchus it says that if they gave Misas Bezdin once in 7 years, it was a Bezdin Chavlanis, or once in 70 years. So Misas Bezdin, that was something, capital punishment was on the books as a deterrent, it would seem, but it was very rarely used. But the Tzedokim, it would seem, they would just stone people in the street, all kinds of things. They didn't have to have edus, all kinds of nonsense, and there are many historical records from the time that seem to testify to this, some that are well known even outside of our circles. But so there was a tremendous corruption, was that they weren't really serious. They were looking for excuses. I remember I heard a tape from Rav Beryl Wein, so Gesundsein. He said like this. He said that the Tzedokim, they don't think they were trying to be frum. They were looking for excuses not to be frum. And they were also basically sellouts. They sold out to the Romans. And so since there were so many of the Kohanim who, unfortunately, that's where they went. They had this big ichus, they were Kohanim. Who were the real Gedolei Yisrael? Sometimes in Bayis Sheni, the ones who saved the Torah were Geri Tzedek, Shemai Naftalian, Rabbi Kiva was a Ben Gerim. There were others.
Was a Gerim.
Right? So in Bayis Sheni, the Yichus didn't mean it so much. What really mattered was the Torah. But Rabbi Chanina's Gan HaKohanim, he had both. He had the Yichus and he also had the Torah. But he wasn't corrupt, he wasn't a sellout. And so the Gemara in Yuma tells us that for years and years, every year, the Kohen Gadol would go into the Beis HaMikdash, into the Kodesh HaKodashim on Yom Kippur, and he wouldn't come out. It's well known that they would tie a rope around the Kohen Gadol just in case, because no one else could go in there. So just in case, you would think, just in case he didn't make it out, they could schlep him out. But did that really happen? And the Gemara in Yuma said yes, year after year after year during Bayis Sheni. Why? Because the Kohanim Gedolim, they were appointed by the Romans. They were mostly Apikorsim, they were mostly Tzedokim, they were not Bnei Torah, they weren't Roy for such a thing. It's interesting, we know another Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, it says, Asar Nisim Nasal Aviseinu Beis HaMikdash, there were 10 miracles that happened in the Beis HaMikdash, and one Shalai Eri Keri L'Kohen Gadol B'Yom Kippurim. And you could think, maybe, well, if one of those Kohanim Gedolim wound up being a Balkari and they couldn't go, so then they would live another year. That's called a miracle, I guess. To get rid of a Kohen Gadol like that, it's also a miracle. We don't need them. So who would step in? Rabbi Chanina's Gan HaKohanim, he was a tzaddik, he was a Talmud Chochem, he was a tremendous Gadol B'Yisrael. He was supposed to be the Kohen Gadol, we would say, and he was the vice Kohen Gadol. So then when the Kohen Gadol gepagert, it wasn't the real Kohen Gadol, the one that they sent in, that the Romans sent in, he didn't make it out, so he went in and he took care of everything. And so Yom Kippur is over, and you would think, oh, we go to the Bezdin, we declare Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim, now you're the Kohen Gadol. Just like in America, if something happens to the president, the vice president becomes the president. He doesn't say the vice president for the next president that comes in and they appoint somebody else. He becomes the president. So too, a vice Kohen Gadol, you'd think he'd become the Kohen Gadol, but no. They said, no, you're not our type of guy, you're too honest, you're too ehrlich, we don't need you. We need somebody who's going to do what we say, because that's a powerful position. The Roman government's not going to let some rabbi be the Kohen Gadol. We need one of our own guys, somebody we could pay off to do what we want. And so can you imagine, Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim, because of his ehrlichkeit, because he stayed true to the Torah, he was denied his rightful position as the Kohen Gadol by who? Who denied him this position? The Roman government. And yet, of all the Tanoim to say this, Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim said, "Hevi mispal v'shlem mishal malchus." You have to pray for the peace of the government. Even that government that was persecuting him, that was denying him his rights, he said, we got to pray. Why? Shalmolei moira ishas reyeyu chaim beloi. That if not for the fear of the government, people would swallow each other alive. If there was anarchy, there would be people think anarchy. Foolish people think anarchy would lead to